Hi, everybody. This is True Crime with Tiff Klein, giving criminals the disrespect they deserve. Tonight, I have a very special guest. Tina Patton is on my show, and I met Tina through crime scene investigator Sheryl McCollum, the author of the newest book, Swans Don't Swim in a Sewer. Tina is the sister of Melissa Wolfenberger, who is featured in the book that Sheryl wrote about. Sheryl had helped solve a cold case with Tina, her mother, and her father, and finally got some justice and answers that Melissa deserves. So tonight we're going to be talking to Tina about who she is, what her mission is to help those victims of domestic violence. We're going to talk about her life, her relationship with her sister Melissa, and we're going to dive deep to see who Melissa really was. She was not just a cold case. She's not just a headline. She was a woman, a mother, a sister, a child. And that's what we're going to focus on. I want to learn more about Melissa. I think Sheryl did a great job in her book giving us the information about Melissa from Tina and her mother and father, and we'll do a little bit of deep dive on that. But also, Tina is the daughter of the Flint River Killer, Carl, who also helped solve his daughter's case from behind bars with Sheryl McCollum. So it's really fascinating, and I loved the book. I loved the dynamic. I loved the your father Carl's background story, that he never gave up on his daughter. You never gave up on your sister. Your mom never gave up on her daughter. And it's very important to note that just because your dad was in prison didn't mean he didn't have a heart, didn't mean he was still a father. And I don't want to really, focus on him, but he's a big part of the case getting solved because he was working with Sheryl, but he has his own background story. But I think it was just very important to note that from behind bars, he still helped to solve his daughter's murder. And that's some dedication. And I know your dad was a family man, and I know family came first, and I support everything I read in that book. And I get it. I'm from the South. So, family means everything. And for those who want more information on Tina's family and the Flint River Killer, you can read this book, Swans Don't Swim in a Sewer. But this is not about her dad. It's about Melissa, her domestic violence relationship, how she ended up missing and unfortunately dismembered and had a cold case for a long time until crime scene investigator Sheryl McCollum stepped in and helped Tina and her mother and father get answers to see what actually happened to Melissa. And tonight we're going to dive into the steps it took to get there, Tina's journey, and the screaming and fighting she had to do to get somebody's attention. And luckily, she got the crime scene investigator Hall of Famer, Sheryl McCollum. You guys may know her as Mac. I love Mac. She's amazing. And she got us in touch. But read this book if you want to learn more about how they solved the murder of Melissa. But on this podcast, we're going to talk about Melissa and Tina, their relationship, and the journey that Tina has had coming to present day. So Tina, thank you for being on my show. It's an honor. Sheryl has told me so much about you, and I'm looking forward to meeting you.
Thank you. All right. I've heard so much about you too. You have no idea.
Well, I hope good things.
Yeah,
Sheryl,
everything good. Everything good.
Good. Oh, thank you. That's
Cheryl's
that
awesome, isn't she?
Yeah, it's that Southern charm. I will say that in this book, guys, before we get started, she mentioned something called a pot liquor, and
yeah,
I asked her at CrimeCon in Vegas. I said, I gotta know, Sheryl, what is a pot liquor? And she said, when you cook greens and a bunch of stuff in a pot, and it's really just the stuff that sits on the bottom of the pot, and you just lick it off the bottom. And I was like, oh, so it's exactly what it sounds like. All right, sounds pretty good. But I can ask Sheryl.
Actually, what it is it's all that juice. It's all that juice from the greens.
She looked at me like, Tiff, you could ask me any question in the world and you want to know what a pot liquor is. It's like, all right. So Tina, tell me a little bit about who you are. Now, I know you're from the South as well, and give my listeners a little background on you and how you got to be on my podcast.
Well, I'm the oldest sister, Melissa. There is 7 years difference between us, but I like to say I spent half my life in Clayton County and the other half in Henry. Because when I was born and coming up as a young kid, we were in Clayton County, Forest Park, Ellenwood, that area. That area has changed a lot these days, but when I was probably 12, we moved to Henry County, which was Stockbridge. And Melissa, she went to all the Henry County schools. I did too. You there?
Yep. I'm just listening, and I will edit out the spaces. So just talk. You're fine.
Okay. But I was the oldest. I was 7 years older than Melissa. So by the time Melissa came along, I was the spoiled child. Very spoiled is what my mom would say. Spoiled rotten is what my mother would actually say. And my dad would agree with her. So would everybody else, even my sister. I was always in trouble as a kid where Melissa wasn't. She never got into any trouble. She was never grounded for anything that I remember. I was grounded every time I turned around.
Yeah, me too. I
I was
too.
the oldest, so I was the troublemaker. Yep, I was the troublemaker then. So, but me and Melissa were...
Yeah, were you guys really close, or were you just complete opposites and kind of did your own thing?
We were completely opposite, believe it or not. Completely opposite. Sheryl likes to call me Junior because I'm so much like my dad. And my whole life, really, my mom said the same thing. So Junior to me is just something I'm proud of, really, because my dad didn't put up with no bullshit. My sister was more like my mom. My mom's real quiet, soft-spoken. Melissa was too. Mom wouldn't really talk to you unless she knew you or unless she liked you. And Melissa was a lot the same way. So we were completely opposite, complete opposites. Close. There was 7 years between us, but Melissa followed me everywhere. Everywhere I went, she wanted to go. Everything I did, she wanted to do. When I joined band, she wanted to join band too. And she did eventually. I played the clarinet. She played the flute.
I played the flute too.
I played clarinet and she was the flute. Yeah.
That's cool.
When I got to be a preteen, I wanted to do the baton twirling, and lo and behold, here comes Melissa right behind me.
Aww.
Doing the same. We were in parades. We were in beauty pageants. It was awesome.
Wow. So what is your earliest memory with Melissa? Do you have one that sticks out, or is it there's just a bunch that kind of blend together?
And there's a bunch that just kind of blends together, but she was just always right behind me all the time. And, you know, since I was the oldest, it would get on my nerves sometimes, but I let her follow me around anyway. No biggie. It was my baby sister. So, but as we got older, you know, that difference kind of grew bigger and bigger when we got older.
Right. And what would you describe her personality? I mean, I know you said she was more timid and quiet, but what made her laugh? And, you know, what were some of her favorite things?
What made her laugh was animals. She loved animals so much. So that was the one thing that she would always laugh about, the way animals would play and stuff, and the way animals were so lovable and cute when they were little and stuff. She loved animals. And it didn't matter what kind of animal. It was any animal. I'm not sure about the snakes, though. I think she was with me on the snakes. She didn't like snakes.
I think a lot of
but
people
everything
do,
else
so.
she loved. Yeah.
Okay. So I know, you know, there's a lot of dynamics to this story, and we're going to keep Melissa at the forefront as much as we can. Excuse me. So tell me a little bit about Melissa's upbringing, you know, from teenager to adulthood, and how she met Christopher and how she became a mother. And I know from reading the book, she loved being a mom. I know she loved her kids. I know she loved her family.
She did.
And that, you know, that was the biggest dynamic of her life. And the things that I had noticed in the book was, you know, the things that, you know, her not calling for Christmas and just little things I noticed from being a domestic violence victim at one point, the isolation that it causes and how the cohesive control happens and how they slowly pull you away from your family, friends, and support system. So I read that in the book, but tell me more about that relationship. What, you know, what did you think when they first started dating, and just go from there?
Well, the first time I met Chris, I was getting married. That was in 1995. And all of a sudden, here this guy was at my wedding. I mean, I knew that she had a boyfriend and stuff, but, you know, I thought she was opposite of me, not chasing after boys. And I'm sure she wasn't. I think he chased her more than her chasing him. But anyway, they met in high school through mutual friends and stuff. But I remember the first time I met him, he was at the house when I was getting married, and he was working the stereo and stuff for my parents and stuff for the music and everything like that. And I've said it a million times, I know, in different interviews and stuff. The first time I met him, it was like I was looking at Charles Manson. You know, you look at a picture of Charles Manson and you just get the creeps, you get the chills. And that's the same kind of reaction I had when I first met Chris. I didn't like him. There was just something. My mama says there was something about his eyes, and they were cold. He had cold eyes, and he still does. To this day, I believe he still has those cold eyes.
My mom always said, you know, the eyes are a window to the soul, and she looks at somebody within seconds and knows, you know, she just knows. And I'm starting to get like that. There's like nothing inside. It's just a void. So you met him and you just had that feeling. There was something about him. Your mom said the same thing. And how was his demeanor towards you guys? Was he kind of quiet, or was he trying to act, you know, because a lot of the times these abusers
was quiet.
put on a charm. Okay.
No, he didn't do, like most guys would put on the charm, you know. He wasn't trying to do none of that. He was more interested in Melissa and trying to put on the charm with her. As far as us, I think he could have cared less what we thought of him, and none of us liked him from the get-go. So I guess he sensed it maybe that we didn't like him. I'm not sure, but he definitely was not putting on the charm with us. He did
What do
with
you
her
think it was?
all the way.
Well, that was going to be my next question. What do you think it was about him that she was attracted to then?
You know what? I still, to this day, cannot figure it out.
Valid. Sometimes you just don't have an answer for that.
I really don't know what it was about him that she liked. I mean, because to me, he wasn't good looking. He was tall and slim, so maybe that was it. I don't know. I really, to this day, cannot think of what it was about him that she liked.
Can I ask you this question?
Because
Did he come from a broken home or have family issues? Because maybe there was some kind of self-esteem and she felt like maybe she needed to love him hard to fix him and just... I'm not speaking for your sister, but...
That might have been it, because he did come from a broken home.
Okay.
And, you know, Melissa, we did not know what a broken home was. We didn't know what broken home meant until we got way older. And I mean, you know, to us, it was like, okay, what does this mean? Yeah. What do you mean your parents are what? They're not together. What? That was strange to us. That would have been something that broke her heart, I think, because she was a little bit more soft-hearted than me. I just would have kind of blew it off like, okay, whatever. But that would have been something that affected Melissa, though. She had a heart like that.
Just from coming, you know, and again, I can't speak for your sister, but coming from that abusive lifestyle, I know a lot of men who are abusers come from bad families, abusive families, voids, neglect, and they're always searching for something to validate them and fill a void. And, you know, I used to always want to be a fixer and fix men. And well, if I just love them harder, you know, they'll eventually change. Or if I don't love them, who else is going to take care of them? Like, and again, I'm saying that's what I've dealt with. I'm just saying maybe theoretically that's maybe what she saw in him, or maybe he just really charmed her. I mean, unfortunately, we won't know. But so you came from a very strong family. And do you have any other siblings? I can't remember if I read that correctly.
No, just me and her. Yep,
so
just me and her. I was the oldest and she was the baby. So
I was the only girl in my house. I have 4 brothers. So my mom was really strict with me. What moment, Scott? I was grounded all the time because I ran my mouth.
I was too.
And I didn't like having rules and authority or people telling me what to do. So I would just push the buttons and see how far I could get. Looking back, I feel like an asshole, but I was trying to be very independent because my mom was so, like, I don't want to say she was controlling, but she was so protective over me that I felt like I couldn't breathe. So I would do things on purpose to, like, be a rebel and just be my own person. And I get now why she did it. She got pregnant at 15 and she was in an abusive relationship herself. So I get why she was like that. But it's like, holy hell, like, can I breathe a little bit? So...
Yeah, right.
But now today I'm very outspoken and I don't want people to walk all over me anymore and this, that, and the other. So I'm like, well, you should be happy, Mom. So...
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your family dynamic. Like, what did you guys do as a family? What was, what was her favorite holiday and movie or anything like that? Do you remember any of that stuff?
Well, our big thing was the holidays. Christmas, Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, the 4th of July, you know, the whole cookout thing on the 4th of July, the birthday parties on our birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, all of the holidays were a big thing to us, but our favorite was Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. We loved Christmas. We loved Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was a big thing because Thanksgiving night was when we put up our Christmas tree.
Okay.
And we all would, you know, Dad would pull out the Christmas tree and get it up, and then the rest of us would decorate it and stuff. So that was a big thing. Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, even New Year's Day was a big deal in our family. Because we did all those holidays together, you know. Christmas Eve, we would spend with my mom's side of the family, with my grandparents. All of us would get together at our grandparents' house and unwrap Christmas gifts and stuff. Wow. Then we'd go home and we'd get ready for Santa like most kids did. And we'd sneak around, tiptoe into the living room all night long trying to see if Santa had come yet. I think Melissa loved that more than I did.
The excitement.
And we tried to, you know, go to sleep, but we couldn't. Most kids can't when they know Santa's coming.
No, yeah.
But we would sneak out to the living room, see if we had anything under the tree yet for hours and hours waiting. And then we finally get to sleep. And then all of a sudden, about 7 a.m., 8 a.m., they'd wake us up. Santa's been here. Yay! Run in and do the family thing with mom and dad and Melissa and I. And then later on in the day, we would go eat dinner with my dad's side of the family. But there was only a certain part of his family that we had anything to do with, and that was the Jackson side. So we loved all them. It was a big thing at their house too, Christmas Day. So
you come from a very close Southern family, and
yes,
obviously families comes first, family traditions, holidays, family's everything. And I could only imagine
Easter egg hunts.
Oh, those were
the
fun.
whole thing.
I wish we had adult ones. My favorite holiday is Valentine's Day and Thanksgiving. So I get the whole Thanksgiving thing. It's just, what's better than family and food?
Yeah.
It's I couldn't imagine being in the South too. But when it comes to Melissa, I mean, this case is, and I'm gonna quote something off the book. Scott Duffy, who was a retired FBI supervisory special agent, said it's a story of twists and turns about a crime scene investigator leaving no stone unturned in the hunt for Melissa's killer. One such stone led to the mindset of a serial killer, which I don't like that phrase. And if you read the book, I think people would understand why. I don't think your dad was a serial killer. When I think of serial killer, I think of Ted Bundy and what's the other guy's name? Jeffrey Dahmer. When I read about your dad, I don't think that at all. And they said it was resulted in an unlikely yet masterful partnership between the cops and Melissa's father, Carl, to catch her killer in one of Atlanta's notorious cold case murder mysteries. But yeah, when I read about your dad and what Sheryl had told me, I think it's justifiable to most. If you read the book, you'll understand he's not a serial killer. And again, I don't want to talk too much about that part, but I think it's part of the story. And he seemed to be very family first. Yeah, and you mess with my family, then then you're going to deal with me. And he wasn't some guy who just went out and picked random people up to kill them. It's nothing like that. But so I just wanted to clear that up. So he did help you, your mom, and Sheryl from behind bars to help find Melissa's killer. So tell me about the day that Melissa went missing. What did you notice? Or, was there actually, let me back up. Were there signs you saw leading up to Melissa going missing? Did you notice anything? Did she ever say anything? Or was it just one of those out of the blue? What just happened?
It wasn't. I saw the signs of the abuse because at the time she was working with me at Waffle House. For those of y'all don't know, Waffle House is a Southern thing, big time. And both of us worked at the Waffle House together on the same shift. So I saw a lot of things that my mom and dad probably didn't. I saw bruises and, I saw the tears in her eyes, the handprints around her neck. Unfortunately, I'd heard a comment he made that I knew as soon as it came out of his mouth, something was going to happen. I just had no idea what. I had no idea it was going to. So, yeah, I saw the signs. But, when you see the signs, a lot of times you think to yourself, this can't happen to my family. Especially me with the way my parents were, how close we all were. And I knew how my dad was so much about the family. Yeah. I knew as a kid growing up, anybody ever messed with us, they were going to have to deal with my dad. And it wasn't going to be a nice thing.
Yeah.
I can honestly say that. It would not have been nice. So I never imagined that something like that would happen to Melissa. Melissa, of all people, she was just the way she was. I could not imagine that ever happening to her. She was so sweet and so kind and so loving to everybody, especially to him. And then for him to do what he did, it threw me for a loop. It threw me for a big loop.
When you saw these signs, did you bring it up to her or ask her questions, or would she just be in denial? Okay. What would she say?
I did. Oh, don't start. I don't want to talk about it now. I remember one night she came in and she had tears in her eyes, and when me and her would cry, hysterically cry, we would get the red nose and the red eyes. You cannot deny that we had been crying at all because we're both really light. I mean, we're white. We're whiter than white. Okay.
I'm a redhead. I am too.
Yeah. And you could really tell it with us. So she came in one night and I saw a handprint around her throat and I asked her about it and she wouldn't answer me. And I said, Chris did that to you, right? And she just looked at me and that's all she had to do was look at me. I knew the answer. And I went to go out front and she tried to stop me. But as soon as she moved out of my way, I went straight to him. Of course, somebody else beat me to him, but, and he just turned his head and looked out the window.
Of course.
But, she would tell me things like, don't do it. Don't say nothing. I'm going to call mom and dad. Please don't call mom and dad. Dad will come up there and beat him up and everything else. Well, that's what he needs.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. That's what he needed. That's what should have happened.
Uh-huh.
And now that I think about it, maybe if I had called my mom and dad would have went up there and beat his ass and made my sister leave, and maybe she would still be alive today. That's one of my biggest regrets. And I know it is my dad's.
So carrying that burden is heavy. Because it's the what if. However, I remember being in that situation. I've been outside of it. I've been in your position. I've also been in my own position. And she, loved her family and loved him. And she knew if she told you and your parents found out, like you just said, yeah, your dad would have whooped his ass. So she was trying to protect her abuser and protect herself and protect her family. Yeah. From what I gathered reading the book and from what you just said. And she probably knew that if you escalated it, it was just going to be worse for her in the end. He would have taken that out on her.
That's one thing she would say, because I remember going to her house one time and, he had called me a bitch from the top of the steps. I was just taking my sister home and he called me a bitch, and I wanted to go after him then and slap him myself. And she grabbed my arm and was like, don't, you're going to make it worse for me. That's what she said. That's the one time she actually acknowledged to me what was going on. That she really acknowledged it. She had acknowledged it many times before that, but that really brought it. The acknowledgement that she knew what was happening and that it wasn't right, and that if I did something, then it was going to make it worse on her.
I hate that I understand that and knew that without even knowing your sister, but it's a pattern that, victims go through, and she was going to get the brunt of it. And I understand the position she was in, because obviously she's trying to save herself and protect herself. She's protecting the guy she loves, and she doesn't want you guys getting hurt or getting involved. And that has to be a heaviness on you that, maybe you should have told your dad. But I don't think, in that time frame, you're her big sister. I don't think it crossed your mind that if you didn't say something back then, I mean, this is, the world was different then than it is now. So, people don't publicly, I mean, it's still shamed upon. There's still a stigma on it. And I could understand, having a sibling and them begging you not to say something, and you standing there because you don't want her getting hurt even more. But that would probably break me inside, because you want to help, but at the same time you don't want to put her in more danger. So that has to be a really conflicted feeling for you when that happened. I'm sorry that happened. I can't imagine what you felt, what she felt. And I know you said that he put his hands around her neck, and when somebody does that, the chances of them killing you raises 750. If they squeeze your face. That's what I think
too.
Yep.
And they see the fear. They see the fear when they do that.
Absolutely. So how long would you think, the whole time they were together, it was abusive from day one, or did it gradually start?
I think it started day one. I know from experience personally that when they start the control thing, that's the first step. And him trying to get her upset with my parents and my mom and my dad. And, he would make phone calls and talk to my mom about things that nobody else but us should have known, but that he knew, and would use it like, see, Melissa, I told you they didn't care about you. Why would you say something like that? But I might as well just tell you what it was. She was molested as a child. The person that molested her was the stepson of one of the guys that my dad killed, which was his uncle.
Okay.
So he was actually a blood relative. He had molested Melissa when she was 9. So Chris used that with Melissa, saying, see, your mom and dad don't care, because they would have took care of the guy. Yeah. And he was asking my mom where he was, that he wanted to take care of it, that he knew how to get away with murder, and when mom wouldn't tell him, he would say, see, they don't really love you. So that's
gaslighting and manipulating.
Yes,
very. And gaslighting. Yeah.
That is a narcissist.
100%. 100%. Say again who the man was that abused your sister when she was little. How did he know you guys?
It was the stepson of my dad's uncle, Fred.
Okay.
Fred was the first person that my dad had actually killed.
Okay. Yeah, I remember reading that.
Yeah, I didn't know until years later that Fred had actually been molesting the kids, the stepkids, his stepchildren.
Oh, wow.
Well, the stepson actually ended up molesting Melissa when she was 9. So Chris really used that to get her away from the family, especially my parents.
That's horrible. So this happened after your dad killed Fred, or?
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, way after, many years after.
Okay. Well, that guy's lucky your dad didn't get him either. Mad respect to your dad, because listen, if that happened to my kid, I'd kill somebody for a kid too. So, but
well, let me say this: my dad ran into him after that one time, and he took off running.
Well, yeah. Yeah, your dad probably
he saw my dad at the same time my dad saw him, and my dad turned around back to the vehicle, and when he turned back around, he was gone. Whoa.
Your dad sounds like a good guy to have on your side, because from what I read, I was like, because again, I'm from the South, like, I get it. Like, for me, I was just like, oh, hell yeah, let's go. Like,
yeah.
So you think he was abusive from day one, and he threw it in her face, to gaslight her, manipulate her, and isolate her, to make her believe and brainwash her that her family didn't care about her. So then it broke down her self-esteem, and she's thinking all she has is Chris. Even though she had you, and she had her dad, she had her mom, she felt isolated. And then how long into the marriage did she have kids?
Let's see, she was...
Or did she get pregnant before she got married?
16 or 17 when she had Chrissy. She had the daughter. They had 2 kids, Chris and Zoe. So it was right out of high school that she had Christina.
You witnessed domestic violence with Melissa and Chris, but you didn't grow up in a household like that. And you didn't really know that existed until it happened to Melissa, correct?
No, right. No. I had been kind of through it. My oldest children, their dad, we got into an argument one time about my daughter. She was just a couple months old at the time. And he hauled off to slap me. And instead of slapping me, he was slapping my son, who was a year old at the time. So he got him instead of getting me. And that was it. I left. No, you're not hurting my child. I left right then. So that was about as far as I'd ever seen domestic violence. And I didn't even know what that was. At that time, I didn't know what it was. Because we never saw stuff like that. I mean, I heard my mom and dad argue, and I'm sure Melissa did too. But my dad never, ever put his hands on my mother. Never. And I even, as a matter of fact, after the trial was over, I asked my mom, I said, Mom, let me ask you something. She said, what? I said, did that dad ever hit you the whole time that y'all were married and stuff? Did he ever put his hands on you? She said, no, are you crazy? Your dad would never do anything like that. So I know if I didn't see it, she didn't see it either. She didn't know what it was either.
Okay.
And
so it was,
that's not a good thing.
No. But even, you know what? My biological dad hit my mom and brother, but never laid a finger on me. And my mom left him when I was 8, and I ended up with a really good stepdad, amazing, and I still ended up in a domestic violence relationship. So you can be raised around it, or you may not be. Anybody could get abused, whether you're, Caucasian, African American, Asian, rich, poor. It doesn't matter who you are. But most of the time, there is a learned behavior, or you witnessed it, but it just happens sometimes. And she was so afraid.
Honestly, is what I always thought. That's how it started. That's how women put up with it. It's because they saw it as kids. That's what I always thought in my mind. And I was like, Melissa never saw that. So how does she end up in a relationship like that and put up with it? It just, now I know that's not the way it is. Always.
Yeah.
Most of the time it is.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
not always.
I used to be the girl that would say, I'll never be that girl. First time a guy ever does that to me, I'll kill him, blah, blah, blah. No, it happened for 9 years. So don't ever say out there that it won't happen to you, because
it will.
Very welcome. Yep.
It will.
How old was she? Was she married before or after she's had her first child?
They were married by the time they had the first child. They were married.
Was he abusive?
As a matter of fact, he got her pregnant so they could get married.
Okay. So that adds a whole nother layer of control.
Yep. He put it in her head. And, back then, you had to have your parents' signature to be able to get married. There was only one way to do that, and that was if you came up pregnant. And my dad was real big on, if you get pregnant, you got to be married. I mean, I married a guy because I got pregnant. Biggest mistake of my life. He was a mama's boy, but he never put his hands on me. But still biggest regret of my life. So, but,
you very like strong Southern family values, traditions. And so it
Mhm.
seemed like it was out of the ordinary for her to end up with somebody like this. So he got her pregnant. You think he trapped her on purpose and then married her so he could control her and have
Mhm.
her to himself. And was he ever abusive to the kids that you
No,
know of?
no, not that I know of. Not
Okay.
that I know of.
Hmm.
But, he really wasn't around the kids when they were little and coming up. He gave them to his mother. When my sister so-called disappeared,
I
his
remember
mother
reading
ended up
that.
with him. Yeah, his
So
mother ended up with him.
how many years were they together up until she went missing? What was the time frame on that?
She was fixing to be well, she had turned 21. So from 16 to 21, 5 years.
Okay, 5 years. So well, just a little background to my listeners. She went missing, and he said that she just ran off without her kids. And I believe he said she went to California, correct?
Right, right,
And you guys, you're hearing this story. She was very close to her family, her sister, her parents, values, traditions, home, a home atmosphere type of girl. You don't just one day wake up and leave your kids and move to another state. I mean, that was the first thing in the book that I'm like, of course he's going to say that. And
right,
it's not like her to, it seems like she probably never really traveled. She really just stayed around where you guys grew up, right? And lived.
right.
So for her to just get up and go to California and leave her kids, it's like, come on, like what
By
other bullshit?
herself
Yeah. And
or
that's what I
by
was like,
herself?
that's
No.
a abuser. Well, she must have just abandoned her kids and me. I don't know where she is. And that made me want to reach to that book and just beat the shit out of them because I was like, that is such a classic line. So that made me really mad. So he says she's missing. When was it until you got involved? Do you remember where you were like, no, this isn't right. She's not missing. What did you and your parents do?
We knew when she didn't show up Christmas to
Uh-huh.
get the one thing that she asked my mom for that was sentimental that mom couldn't go to the store and get, which was a picture of her with our papa, my dad's dad. She loved that man more than anything in the world. I mean, she worshiped the ground he walked on, just like I did my grandmother on my dad's side. It was Granny and Papa on my dad's side. And so she asked my mom for a picture of Papa, her and Papa together. So mom found one. She had it blown up to 8 by 10. She put it in a frame. She had it gift wrapped under the tree waiting for Melissa to come get it. That was the only thing Melissa wanted for Christmas. And then she didn't show up. Me, I didn't worry about it too much until my dad walked into the Waffle House, probably about March or April. He walked into the Waffle House where I worked at, said, "Where's your sister?" I said, "I don't know where she's at. Why are you coming to see me?" And he said,
Ugh.
"She works with you." I said, "No, not anymore." I said, "But why are you asking me where she is?" "Well, she didn't show up for Christmas." "Okay, I know that, Dad, but why are you coming now?" "Well, she didn't reach out to your mom on her birthday." Now, keep in mind, I'm a daddy's girl. Cheryl Mack calls me Junior. I was really close to my dad. I
Uh,
mean, me and my dad were tighter than tight. It was
uh-huh.
the same thing with Melissa and my mom.
Okay.
So for Melissa not to send my mom a birthday card, not to call her on her birthday, that was a big deal. That was it right there. I was like, "What? Wait a minute. Wait, wait, wait. Hold up." Christmas, it could have been because she was with his family, But for her not to call my mom and tell her Happy Mother's Day, that's when I knew. That's when I knew
Okay.
something was wrong.
So it was only about a 3-month. So she, at this point, was missing since around Christmas to, you say it was
Mhm.
March or April?
Yep. It was
So your
March or
dad was,
April of 99 when my dad came to see me.
all right. So how far did she live from the Waffle House and her parents?
Well, from our parents, it was about a 30-minute to 45-minute drive, depending on the traffic.
Uh-huh.
But from Waffle House, maybe 15 minutes
Okay.
if traffic was bad on, the road going up to her house. So she was a lot closer to work than she was to where my parents were.
So your dad basically was like, no, F this, something's wrong. Now I'm going to go looking for my daughter. So he shows up to the Waffle House
Mhm.
to see you, thinking you know where she's at, but you haven't seen her in months. So what was going through your
Mhm.
head at this point? You know she didn't call her mom, but then you're like, wait, she hasn't worked here in how long? Like, did you automatically think Chris, or did you really just not know?
I didn't think that something had happened to her at that time. I
Ugh.
think at that time I thought maybe he just moved her away somewhere, like farther south, so she couldn't get in touch with us easy enough. Because
Mhm.
back then there wasn't any cell phones. You had beepers and you had a house phone. Well, they had neither one.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So we actually had to go to her house and look for her. And the last address at that time my dad had for her was on Washington Road, which was just right down the street from the Waffle House I was at. that wasn't where I knew her to be. I thought she was on the other side of town on Brookline, up going
Okay.
towards, Atlanta. So we went over there looking. I told him what the address was, how to find the house, and he went up there looking, and he didn't find her, and the house was empty.
Did he come to Waffle House wanting to confront her, like, why the hell didn't you call your mom? Or did he come there because he knew something was wrong?
He came there because he knew something was wrong.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to get clarification on that. So he goes up to the house. There's nobody there. There's nothing there. What does he do at that point? Does he just start being dad?
He just started looking. Yep. He just started looking. None of us at that time had any clue that she was dead. She was already dead by the time my dad came looking.
I just can't even.
And I remember not even a month or so later, at that time, the Olympics had already been here. All these prostitutes were coming up missing in Atlanta, and they were found in cemeteries tied to trees. So every time a news report came on about a woman being found in a cemetery, I was like, oh my God, please don't let that be my sister.
That's insane.
So I remember a news report coming on, and my mom said she watched it too at the same time. Both of us were sitting in our houses watching this news report with these detectives coming up with a skull that they had a remake of sitting on a table lower than the podium. And they were saying it was a man and saying where it was found and everything. And we had no idea it was my sister.
Yeah, I do remember that.
It was my sister sitting there the whole time. That was, yeah.
I'm trying to not say certain words. So they had her skull, but they said that it belonged to a male. And this whole time, she was missing, but you also felt relieved probably at that moment that, well, that's not Melissa. There's still a chance she's out there. Meanwhile, she's found, but not identified.
Right. And she was identified once my dad went to jail.
When did she go missing? Was it the summer of 1998 or was it 1999?
No, it was Christmas of 98 was the last time.
98.
Well, Thanksgiving in 98 was the last time anybody spoke to her from the family.
And when was that? When did they find that skull?
April 29th of 1999.
So sometime between Thanksgiving and April, they found her skull in April, and they had it, and they said it was a male. So you guys went how many years? 5 years, not knowing that they actually had her.
It was 2003 when we found out that it was actually her.
So
March.
What did you feel in that moment? Were you relieved, or were you just really angry? I'd be angry and pissed off, but probably a mix of everything, right?
It was, at the time that I got that phone call that they had Melissa, my ex-husband had actually called me, and actually, from my recollection, that day I'd been sitting watching the news. I'd been watching the news for weeks at that time because my dad had been arrested in the end of February for the murders that he did. So from my recollection of it, the same day that I found out my dad got his last 2 life sentences was the same day that I found out my sister was dead and she was beheaded. And I remember I was in East Point walking down the street going to get some chicken wings from a chicken place close by. And I just remember collapsing in the street from the phone call and thinking her head.
Yeah. And how did they determine that? Because they only found a skull, they determined she was decapitated, or is it because there was no, how did they come to that conclusion, I guess is my question.
Well, my dad's DNA was what made them realize that was her.
Okay.
But my dad, when he got arrested, my mom asked the officer that had arrested my dad, detective out of Fayetteville, asked him to help us find my sister. Well, he went searching. Nothing came up with her driver's license. Actually, he found out her driver's license had expired. Nothing was coming up under her social security number, so she wasn't working anywhere. And there was a few news stories about my dad, and there was one on Channel 2 of my mom with Mark Winnie where she showed my sister's picture. And somebody evidently was reading the AJC the next morning and said, wait a minute, this girl lived over here where we found this skull. We need to have the skull tested. And that's when it started rolled downhill.
And that was in 1999. Or 2003.
That was in 2003. So from 99 until 2003, she was in the morgue the whole time. And we were still looking for her.
I can't remember, but was that the only part of her they found in 2003, or did they have other?
In April 29th, 1999 was when they found her skull. They went back out in June and found arms and legs, and that was all they found. They never found her torso.
I'm sorry. That I know I read that, but when you hear it from her sister,
Yeah.
it's a little more. I
And
don't
we
know the
think
word.
that I believe that she was pregnant at the time because she had had some problems with probation before she came up missing, and she had told the judge that she was pregnant. So I myself
Oh,
believe that she might have been pregnant at the time, and I think that's why we can't find the torso.
that I was wondering that when I read the book. Not that she was pregnant, but I was just like, why not? Why the torso? Why is the torso missing? But that never crossed my mind. Oh my god, that poor girl.
Yeah, yeah. My
So,
mom, on the other hand, doesn't think that she was pregnant, but I believe that she may have been pregnant, and that's why.
well, I mean, you said she told the judge, so why would she tell the judge that if?
And then Melissa wasn't a liar like that. She wouldn't have
Mhm.
told the judge something like that unless it was true. She wouldn't have made something up. I would have, but not her. She
Never
wasn't
did.
that kind of person.
So did you think he took her life because she was pregnant, or was there any signs that she was trying to leave him? Like, is there any rhyme or
What I
reason for anything
believe,
he did?
what I believe happened is I think they ended up in an argument, and I think Cheryl believes the same thing I do, that they ended up in an argument, and I think Melissa was tired and she was going to leave, and I think she told him she was going to call my mom and daddy and get them to come get her and the kids, and he snapped, or I think he accidentally killed her. I agree with Cheryl about that. I think he didn't mean to strangle her. I think he had on longer than he should have. But what you did to her after, you knew what you were doing.
Yeah, that's it. And
That took
how
some
did
thought.
and that's evil because that's intimate.
Hmm.
Like that's
That's
really
evil.
intimate. Yeah, that's I
That goes back to the Charles Manson eyes.
know what Chris looks like. I've refrained from looking him up, but now I'm curious. I want to I'm gonna look later just to see if I get that like
Let me
heebie-jeebie
know what you
feeling.
see.
I
Let me
will.
know what you see.
I will. It's always in the eyes with abusers. Always. They just have this
Yeah.
look in their eye, and I can't explain it. Look, were his eyes brown?
Yeah. Yep.
Usually, there's more statistics that men with brown eyes abuse. My mom always said guys who have brown eyes are full of shit, and when they get into a bad mood, they turn black. So
And you
I've
know what?
noticed.
My dad, as a kid, he would tell me, "Oh, you're so full of shit. Your eyes are brown." And I would say, "Dad, you are too." But my mom always said, "You don't trust a guy with blue eyes.
Oh, blue.
And you don't trust the ones with green eyes because they get jealous. The jealousy monster." But I've
Interesting.
never heard that one about the brown eyes. She never really
Yeah.
told me one about brown eyes, but
Yeah. Yeah, she always said they're full of shit, and then when they're up to something bad or evil or their personalities change and those narcissists and manipulators, their eyes get really dark. And I've noticed that with people I've met, and I've really studied people now, and I'm like, she's not lying. But it is.
well,
It's
see,
the window to your soul.
you look at Charles Manson's eyes. His eyes are black. You can't
Yep.
even see a soul in his eyes.
Nope, nope. A lot of the guys that I've seen through true crime, their eyes are like that. Chris Watts, who killed Shanann, Brian
That
Laundrie's
was
eyes
terrible.
are really dark. There's somebody
Yeah.
else. I don't know.
I
There's so
hope he's
many, but
rotting where
there's
he
a lot of
should be.
similarities between a lot of abusers. But okay, so 2003, they find her skull and then they find her arms and legs, but the torso to this day has never been found. You think she possibly could have been pregnant because she told the judge that. You don't think that he killed her intentionally, but took her life. They say that he strangled her. That's what the conclusion was. And then
Mhm.
dismembered her, which was a very intimate action that he took. So exactly what you said. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
because
who
you just don't do that at the drop of a hat. That takes time.
and he cleaned it
That
all up.
takes time.
So were her and I hate asking these questions, but I'm good. So this is why we're here. When they found her, was her remains all in one place, or were they scattered out throughout different areas?
They were in the same area, but they were
Okay.
not in the same place. The arms and legs were in the same place, but the skull was in a different place, but same area, within yards of each other.
I know in the book Cheryl talked about a trash bag that had a knot, and
Mhm.
she said that there could have been DNA in that. Was that the
Right.
bag that they found her skull in, or was that the other body parts?
I think that's the other body parts, I think.
And how old were her kids when this happened?
2 and 1, or maybe 3 and 1.
And his mom had them at that time?
After Melissa disappeared, his mom had them the whole time until they reached 18.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Do
When
you
they
talk to
reached
them?
18, that was when my niece reached out to us and wanted to meet us.
Okay. I don't remember if that did Cheryl put that in the book? I don't remember that being in
I
there.
don't think she did. I don't think she did talk about that in the book, actually.
Well, we'll get to that
They
in a
kept them
second.
away
So,
from us.
yeah, see, do you have a close relationship now?
We did, but after the trial, I think it really affected the daughter. I think she
Okay.
was devastated over the come out of the trial too. So we haven't had any contact with either one of them.
Wow. Well, that's got to be hard for them. I mean, on both angles there. So did Melissa ever have any type of PFA against Chris at any point?
She did. She did.
Did they live?
She
Where
did.
was she living? If she had one against him, was he at his mom's or something?
They had evidently what happened was the police had gotten called to their house because he had dragged her down the sidewalk, and she had went and got a restraining order on him after that. But then when it was time to go to court on the restraining order, guess what? He asked the judge to let him talk to Melissa alone, and they did. And next thing we knew, she went back home with him.
She dropped the charges.
Yep.
Did she
As a matter
ever?
of fact, at the time that she came up missing, there was a case against him for domestic violence against Melissa.
Really?
It got dead docketed in March, I believe it was, because they couldn't find Melissa. 99.
So he's saying she went to California, but they're building a case, and she's actually not alive anymore, and he's just playing it off like, I don't know where she went. Like, oh God.
Mm-hmm.
And his mom, did his mom know what happened to Melissa all this time? Do you know that? Or did she just...
I think so. I think she did. I think the mom knew, and I think the sister did too. Or the sister maybe didn't know the details, but I think she had a sense that something had happened.
Protecting her
Because
son.
my mom had ran into her at one of the home improvement stores, Lowe's or Big Lots. I mean, not Big Lots, Home Depot. One of those places that had just opened up, and she busted out crying when my mom asked her about Melissa. And they were supposed to be best friends.
That's another common trait you see. Moms protecting their boys who abuse, and it's really odd. It is a very odd pattern I've seen. It seems to be they'll do anything to protect them, even help them get away with murder, and it's crazy. Do you remember the last conversation you had with Melissa?
I think the last actual conversation I had with her was when I was telling her if he did it again, I was going to call my mom and dad. And she had came and stayed with me for like a week and a half, something like that. And then she went back home. I tried to talk her out of it, but it was because of the kids. She went back home. So for him, even to suggest that, she just left the kids, that is ridiculous to me. Because she went back home because of the kids.
I mean, she seemed like a great mother. She loved her kids. I mean, that
she
was my
loved
first
her kids.
I was like, there's no way this woman left the South and just abandoned her kids with this guy who her sister knows is abusive. There's just no way. So, again, that has to be a burden on you, but I hope you know it's not your fault, because when you know somebody who's being abused, you want to protect them. And I think in the moment you did what you thought was best for her, and you did. You were her sister. You are her sister. And if she asked you not to get involved, okay, that's your sister. You have her back. You're going to do what she needs you to do. So I hope you don't blame yourself, but I could also see that what if factor. That's
the hard part. The what if factor.
But
I mean,
there's a pattern of victims. They do leave 7, 8, 9 times before they actually leave for good. That's if they can get away.
And she left him quite a few times. So
there you go. So I wish your dad got a hold of him. The information that I got from this book, I really wish your dad got a hold of him.
I do too.
Oh, come on. Like, oh my God. So I'm sure he would have.
I do too. He probably would have went to prison with a smile on his face if he had.
I was telling my mom about this story, and I'm like, I'm not laughing because of what happened to your sister, but I'm explaining because I'm like, Mom, this guy did this. And I was like, and I told her that. I said, he probably got a mugshot with a big smile because he's proud of what he did. And like, listen, I told you once, I'll say it again. I can't go against why he did what he did. So I wish he got his hands on that.
We actually had to send Dad a mugshot of Chris when he got arrested.
He probably hung on the wall and threw darts at it.
And back before it all happened, before the arrest, I used to tell my dad, I want him plastered all over the TV screens, newspapers, and everywhere, just like you were. And it happened. It was all over, everywhere, his picture. So that satisfied me at that point.
You all knew that it was him. There was no other question that somebody else did this. Okay.
No.
What was the journey
day one?
From day one, you just knew it was Chris? Well, you probably out of all people, because you knew he abused her. So you're...
Yeah.
You
I knew.
knew.
I knew.
Did your parents ask you if you knew if he abused her? Did they ever ask you that?
I told my dad. They never asked me because I told them up front that I knew that he was being abusive, and they did too. Inside their soul, inside their minds, I
Yeah.
think they just didn't want to. I think deep down they didn't want to believe Melissa was putting up with it
Yeah.
because
Get that.
I didn't want to believe that she was putting up with it because I know I wouldn't have put up with it. But, you know, there again, we were so opposite, you
Mhm.
know, and it wasn't in her, I don't think, to walk away like I did. Unfortunately, I wish she had been more like me and just walked away and fought back. I really do.
She probably was trauma bonded. He probably threatened her, you know, if you leave me, I will kill you and these kids. So there
Yeah.
has been a time where she was just beaten down and broken and had no hope. I mean, he probably said those things to her all the time. She probably lived in fear every day of her
Where
life.
are you going to go? What are you going to do? Live with your mama and daddy the rest of your life?
Yep. My ex did that to me. Yep.
Yep. So, yeah.
I get so mad. It's just I get so mad. Like I don't even want to look at his picture right now because I feel like if I bring it up, I'm just gonna go AWOL. Like
Well, see, you know, the funny thing is that this whole time that we've been dealing with all this, there was a guy and a girl walking down the street in front of my house where I live, and they were
okay.
arguing. I was sitting outside on the porch smoking a cigarette, and I heard them arguing, and I heard him say, "Pop." I heard the slap. And I jumped up so quick and went to the door. So for me, it's like anytime I see stuff like that, I'm jumping up like it was my sister
Yeah, yeah.
trying to defend whoever it is and saying, "Look, you better stop that crap. I'm calling the police." And I called the police. Police never
Good.
showed up. They never came. I gave them my phone number and everything.
I'm a very big if you see something, say something. You know, the relationships I've been with, people just look the other way. I didn't want to get involved or I didn't know what was going on, or I saw it, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to start any drama. You know what? If you see something and say something and you're wrong, it's better than seeing something and then something bad happening. So
Exactly.
I'm always a voucher. If I see something, I'm going to call the cops. I'm going to say something. I could be wrong, but I'd rather be wrong than find out that person ended up dead.
Yeah.
And that's the fact that they didn't even show up.
Right. Right.
I have a PFA on my ex right now for stalking and harassing me. He violates it. They don't give a shit. They don't do anything about it. It's like, what? And I even told
And that's
I met,
sad. It shouldn't be
it
like
is.
that.
Nope. I met with the chief of staff of the senator office 2 weeks ago. And she even said, she's like, this isn't going to go far for you because if they're not taking it seriously. And I'm like, that's the problem right there. What you just said, they're not taking it seriously. So I'm dealing with that here in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. The police here drop the ball and stuff like that all the time. But anyway, so what was this journey like for you and where you're at today with it? What have you done to help spread the word, get your sister's story known? What did you and your mother and dad do to find Sheryl McCollum? Tell us a little bit about how that all happened.
Well, for the longest time, we just kind of waited. And then in 2015, I'd gotten really addicted to the ID channel shows, you know, the true crime stories and stuff on the ID channel. It had
Yep.
started being a really big thing then. So in
Mhm.
2015, this show came on and it was about this sister who helped find her sister's murderer. It was the husband. She had put billboards up and she went and got the case file. She did all this stuff. And I was like, well, I don't have the money to do the billboards, but I can go get the case file and talk to everybody I can. So that's what I did. 2015, I tried 3 different times to get the file on my sister. All 3 times they said, we don't have a file on Melissa Wolfenberger. I'm like, really? Okay. I know that's a lie because she was murdered.
Yeah.
So I worked at a restaurant. So I always talked about my sister and talked about what happened to her. And we had a lot of the Henry County sheriffs that came in that, you know, I talked to. I was always talking to them about different things. But this one that I was really buddy with, he was a major with the sheriff's department under our sheriff that had been sheriff for years and years and years. He came in one day at lunch by himself, sitting there, not really doing anything, just sitting there eating, enjoying his lunch. And I walked over and sat next to him and I said, Major, I have a question for you. He said, well, I have an answer. What's the question? I said, I'm trying to get a file from Fulton County. How do I go about it? He said, what kind of file is it? I said, it's a murder file. He said, who's the murder file on? I said, it's on my sister. He said, well, they have to give it to you, number one, is your family. He said, file an open records request. I said, I've done that 3 times. He said, you've done that 3 times. What have they said? They say they don't have it. He said, okay, the first chance you get, you go down there in person with the open records request. You file it in person and hand it to them, and you wait for them to come back. If they come back and tell you that they don't have it, you tell them you're going to the Attorney General's office as soon as you leave their office, and you're going to ask him about it and see if he can
Yeah.
find it. So I went down the very next day. I went to Fulton County, went to the police department, city of Atlanta, filed the open records request. They came back and said they couldn't find it. I said, well, you better go back and look again because I know there's a file. My sister was murdered. She was beheaded. There's a file and I want it. And if I don't get it today, I'm going to the Attorney General. Right as soon as I leave here, I'm going straight to his office. They go and look again. They come back. We were looking in the computer system. It's not in the computer, but they have it in the old files.
Now
And
all of a
it's
sudden
sitting
it's
on
in
a
the old
detective's
files.
desk. It's sitting on a detective's desk. So she's going to print it for you and she'll call you when she has it ready. This was Friday, right? I'm like, okay. So I go home. I'm like, they better have that file come Monday morning. 8 a.m. before the offices even open, they're calling my phone telling me to come get the file.
There you go.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, how much is this file going to cost me? They
Yeah,
gave it to me free of charge.
good.
They were supposed to charge me for it per page, but they
Oh, because
gave it
they
to
know
me
they
free of
have it.
free.
You shouldn't have had to go to
900
those
pages.
multiple times to get that when you're entitled to it for one. Then you had to talk to a major. Then you had to go and then threaten them with the Attorney General. Then all of a sudden, oh, it's on the desk. They just did that the first time.
Right.
When you got it, it was 900 pages. And were there things in this file that you were unaware of?
When I got the file, it was so thick. It was over 900 pages. I got it and I started looking through it and I'm like, okay, there's duplicates of stuff in here. So this ain't, this file it's messed up. So I took it to my mom and me and mom both started working on it and getting the duplicates out. And we got it down to a little over almost 500 pages.
Okay.
So half of that 900-page file was copies. After that, we started putting it on hard drives, loading it up to hard drives. I loaded it up to my laptop. Mom did the same thing at home. She started making the hard drives, and I started passing them out to people that I knew were involved in law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
One is a chief in one of the local police departments. He had it for a while. He had the hard copy, though, because I'd ran out of the hard drive. So he had my copy, the hard copy, and he brought it back to me and said, I got to give this back to you because the sheriff buddy of mine that I was talking to about it said that there could be some repercussions if I got involved in this case. Political repercussions. Okay. Well, that wasn't going to stop me.
Yeah, no.
I turned it over I gave that hard drives to I don't know how many people, and I kept talking about it. I was talking to everybody about it. I mean, my bosses all knew. All my customers that I had in the restaurant knew what had happened to my sister. And, a hard day for me was always her birthday, which was September 9th. And I remember on September 9th, I was having a really bad day, thinking about Melissa really bad. And some of my regular customers had come in. Well, the daughter had come with one of them, and that was Donna. And Donna said, Tina, you're not being your usual happy self. What's going on? And I said, well, my sister's murder case. What's going on? We can't get nobody to do anything with it. She said, you know what? I know somebody. Guess who that person was? It was Sheryl
Let me
McCollum.
guess. Sheryl McCollum.
And
Okay.
she has been, thank God for Sheryl McCollum, because she has really been there for my family. She didn't care about what my dad did. She knew from the get-go that my dad was not guilty, that he didn't do this to his own child. She has been our biggest supporter. I love her so much. And her and Karen Greer from Channel 2, she's the best.
Very
She
nice.
is the
Yes.
best person. When it comes to news, you want somebody on your side, that's the one to have on your side because she's awesome.
Wow.
So, and then it
your mom,
just went from
your
there
mom
once we met Sheryl.
Well, your Sheryl was speaking at an event, right? And your mom had a photo in
Yep.
a frame of
Yep.
Melissa, and then she waited to talk
Yep.
to Sheryl at the end, right?
Right. Yep.
Mm.
They met at their office.
Sheryl probably,
Yep. So that was
look on
something.
her face, probably like, what in the world is this? Like, what kind of case is this? Because it's something unheard of. And Tina, I'm not going to lie. Like, when I first started reading the book, I thought because of your father's past, I was like, wait, did he do it? And, in the very beginning. But then obviously when you find out that her husband was abusive and then your dad's the one helping Sheryl, So I do want to make that very clear, guys. Melissa's dad did not take her life. He helped find her killer. He helped find justice for Melissa. And even though he took the lives of people, he also then knew what it felt like for the family who lost a loved one. So it came full circle for him, but he was still a father, still is a father. And he never gave up that fight. And your father passed a few years ago, correct?
He passed before it made it to trial. Dad was able to get the news that Chris had been arrested, but he had passed in December that year.
Hey, you know what, though? He knew that they got him. He knew that they got him. So that's it, you know? That gave me cold chills thinking about that.
Yeah,
so
he knew that they made the arrest.
That's it. You know, and he's resting in peace because he knew he did his job as her dad, you know? That makes me want to cry. Like, that's just like, I don't even know the word for that. Like, I have cold chills. Maybe that's your dad and Melissa next to me. Well, no. It's a weird feeling I have right now. That like my arm hair is sticking up. So you guys meet Sheryl and she just dives in. She's like, I got you. I'll help you, whatever you need. So she was just like open arms from the beginning. No, I know how Sheryl is. I know she was just like, I got you, baby. I got you. Like, so she jumped in and she helped you guys for a few years. This wasn't just a month, 2 months.
No, she has been right there every step of the way since she got involved in 2017. She's been there every step of the way. She is, you know, I've reached out to her and said, Sheryl, what's going on? Hold on. She's been the one that has kept us calm because there have been so many things that were put ahead of my sister's case. You know, there was the whole Donald Trump thing. Melissa got put on the back burner because of Trump. The day Trump was arrested and brought to Atlanta was the day that they were supposed to go to the grand jury with my sister's case to get an indictment against Chris. So it was put on the back burner then. It got put on the back burner again in January because of the riots in Tennessee. Then there was riots in Atlanta that they thought were going to happen. It got put on the back burner then. Then the DA had the affair, so it got put on the back burner once again. But Sheryl was there every step of the way to keep us calm and keep us waiting and pushing. There were so many times I just wanted to throw my hands up and say, to hell, they ain't ever going to do nothing. And then Sheryl would call and say, so-and-so wants to talk to you about Melissa's case. So
something
every time I wanted to give up, something had happened.
That's usually it. That's your sister going, wait a second, we're not done yet.
Yeah.
There was part in the book that Melissa, now your sister's name's coming out of my mouth, that Sheryl said that stuck with me because as a investigator or a policeman or a detective, she said, don't make promises that you're going to keep in touch with the family and then not follow up with them. She goes,
right.
Once a week, just check in and say, hey, no new updates, but we didn't forget, we're still on it. You know, we're working on it. Not just go cold and ignore you and make you feel like you're not heard or seen.
Yeah.
All it takes is a 5-minute phone call or leave a voicemail or something. So I know that she stressed that a lot in the book and she was on top of it. And I know the letters she wrote your dad and the phone calls they had, they never met in person though, correct? It was just letters and phone calls.
Right. She tried to get an interview with my dad and they would not let her down there to talk to him. She was upset about that. She wanted to speak to him in person, her and Karen Greer.
I'm surprised. They probably would have dragged Nancy Grace with them too.
Yeah.
Can you imagine them all walking into a prison together? But no, Sheryl, it's crazy that she helped solve your sister's case with your dad, who she never even met in person, by letters and phone calls, and then the evidence you gave her and the evidence that she went out, because she went out to the site where they found her remains and she looked at everything. And, you know, she puts herself in that situation. She puts herself in the scenery where it happened. And she knew. She said it in the book. So everybody knew it was Chris. How did they eventually nail him and make the arrest? What led up to that point?
I believe it was the fact that we had done another podcast or interview or something about Melissa's case, and someone had listened to Zone 7 and had listened to the whole thing about Melissa, and they finally reached out to Sheryl and said that they thought they knew something, that they had seen something that he had done to someone at a party one time, and she didn't want to be involved in the case, but that she knew we were on the right track. The lady did end up talking to the detectives, and I think that's what made them really push for the indictment, because it wasn't but a couple weeks later, and we were getting the phone call that he had been arrested.
And So they had enough evidence backed up to have a
Mm-hmm.
have enough to say, okay, we're going to arrest you because we have enough to charge you with. And for those who don't know, Sheryl McCollum's podcast is the official Zone 7, and she put a meaning in the book about. She wrote me this, Tina. I'm going to read it to you. She wrote me this little message that says. She wrote me a note at CrimeCon. You were part of my Zone 7, and I adore you and your mother or mommy. I think it says mommy. I don't know. Thanks for caring about Melissa. Yeah, thanks for caring about Melissa. Shithole 149. So she wrote something in this book that said, not everybody's meant to be in your zone, in your circle. And some people are supposed to leave, and not everybody's going to make it with you. And that, out of all the things in that book, that meant a lot to me because I know what that's like. But she doesn't, Melissa was your sister. She was a person. She's in Cheryl's zone. You know what I mean? Like I learned so much about your family through Sheryl in this book that us talking, I feel like I know you. Like,
Yeah.
So, she has an official Zone 7. I have not actually listened to that podcast yet. I wanted to talk to you first, so then I'm going to listen to it. But I'm just glad that you guys got somebody to listen and to care and to fight for you. And I'm sure there was a lot of nights that tears and anger and emptiness and wanting to give up. And Sheryl was just there every step of the way, going, "Hold on, baby,
Yep.
just a little bit longer." And you were probably
Yep.
like, "Okay, you've been telling me this for years," and then it finally happened. So he gets
Yeah.
arrested. Did you guys ever see him in jail or see him at the trial?
Saw him at the
Like with
trial.
Okay, what was his demeanor like?
Like he wasn't worried about it. Like he knew he was going to get out of it. And that's one thing I've said to Sheryl a couple times, in all these years, he's always said that Melissa just left. Then after a few years, it was Melissa left and took off to California. That was their dream. And that's what he thought happened. Never once, never, ever once in 26 years did he ever say anything about my dad committing the crime until he was arrested. Then he wanted to bring up our father.
Yeah, because he he thought at that point he could frame your dad. Wow, what a piece of shit.
But, and then the fact that they used my dad to get him off of that really pisses me off.
Yeah.
Because I know better.
So tell us a little more about that. So he went to trial, but they dropped did they drop the charges against him and he, quote, got away with it, but we all know that he did it. So tell us a little more about that.
Well, we went through the trial. Originally, the trial was only supposed to be like 5 days. It ended up being 2 weeks.
Okay.
Not everybody was called to the stand to testify like they should have been. I think Sheryl should have been put on the stand.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my dad had already passed, or he would have been on the stand. So he wouldn't have been able to use that about my dad because my dad would have got up there and said, he would have testified that there's no way he would have harmed his child. And I think everybody in the courtroom would have believed him.
Uh-huh.
And then, 2 weeks of trial, and all of a sudden the jury goes back. And after an hour and a half, they come back. And I'm sitting there in the trial, in the jury room, in the courtroom, thinking, my God, this cannot be good. They came back too fast. And then all of a sudden, I see all these cops coming in behind me. And I'm like, oh my God, this is not going to be pretty. This is not going to go our way, is the first thing I thought. So when the jury came back in and sat, and they sent their verdict up to the judge, and the judge read it, they said not guilty. That was the most devastating thing. I think that was more devastating than knowing that my sister had been chopped to pieces.
Jesus.
Knowing that he got away with it.
What do you know the reasoning why? I've never been in a court trial like that. Like, they don't have to say why they thought that, but obviously, did they not think there was enough evidence and it was more circumstantial than anything?
I think in the long run, I think it was them bringing up my dad every time they turned around. They kept bringing up my dad and what my dad had done, and that it could have been him or it could have been payback. And I think they just couldn't see through it. They couldn't see past it. Of course, they didn't have the man sitting there in front of him saying, I didn't do this to my own child. There's no way in hell, And we didn't have the DA that we were supposed to have either. We were supposed to have had a different DA in there fighting for us. And I think she would have put up that fight. And I think she would not have allowed the judge to allow the stuff about my dad, because the only thing my dad had to do with it was helping the arrest happen.
Mm-hmm.
And us finding out that Melissa was dead because of his DNA.
Yeah, he didn't play any other part in it. So they were basically biased with the information they were given. And how is that not almost a mistrial? Because anything that your dad did when he did it in the 70s has nothing to do with Melissa going missing and being
I
dismembered.
know.
How is
Yeah,
that not a
that's what
mistrial?
I
Because
say.
the information should not have been given to the jury because that's an automatic bias.
That's what I thought. That's what I think. And I knew when the judge allowed all that stuff in, it was going to be bad.
Is there a
I
way?
knew it was going to be bad for us.
Did you talk to Sheryl or anybody about appealing for a mistrial?
We couldn't even talk to Sheryl at that time. Sheryl wasn't even allowed in the courtroom.
Oh, that's right.
She had been subpoenaed by the defense attorney, but yet the prosecution didn't call her to testify, which that was a miscarriage of justice right there, not calling her to testify. She should have been called up to testify. She
So
had done a lot of work on it.
Is there like a statute of limits on appealing cases like that? Or is there like possibility that you could still?
With the way it's just like when when the jury came back with OJ and Nicole Brown, they came back with that not guilty verdict. Same thing. There's nothing we can do. He could walk up to me right now and say he did it and why he did it. And I couldn't do a damn thing about it.
It's going to be double jeopardy, which I hate. I hate that part of our legal system. That should not be a thing. Like, you shouldn't be able to get away with murder literally and then go walk up to somebody and say, yeah, I did it. Well, I was proven not guilty, but I did it anyway. So now you have now you have a confession and it's okay. Like, I wish that was thrown out the window. But so the charges were dropped on Chris. What happened after that? You know, he went to jail. Your dad got to see them, at least know that it was him. But the jury decided, listen, we don't have enough evidence to prove that he actually did it. They're using your dad's past as a way to try to throw it in there to throw Chris off the tracks and give a testimony of, well, can you actually prove that he did it? Or maybe her dad had something to do with it, and just put it in their head. So then the trial's dismissed. How do you and your mom move forward? And your dad? Well, your dad passed away, but how do you and your mom move forward?
Mom's having a hard time with it. First few weeks, she just cried and cried and cried. She's just trying to move forward the best way she can. You know, I can't let Melissa's murder be for nothing. So the best thing I can do is to honor her and try to help other people that are victims of domestic violence and tell her story. And hopefully somebody will say, hey, I'm going through that. This could easily be me. Let me get away. Somebody, you know, Melissa's story needs to be told.
Well, thank you for
I hope
being
it helps somebody.
It will. And the thing I want you to remember is if people don't comment or like or share posts that have to do with domestic violence, don't take it always that someone doesn't care. Sometimes people, and I'm saying this to you and the audience, sometimes people don't share and comment and like because they are a victim themselves. And they are afraid that if they even like someone's post, that people are going to automatically think, oh, well, she's being abused. If they share it, they're going to, she's being abused. Or they have to hide it for safety, you know, for their life. So just because somebody doesn't interact with it doesn't mean they don't see it. Or at least pass the message along to somebody who needs to see it. I have a lot of people that message me privately and say, I saw what you posted a few weeks ago, and I've been thinking about that. And it's not all about engagement. You know, there's eyes. People see it, people hear it. But I always say, if I do one podcast a week and one person hears it and it helps somebody, that's all I do it for. I don't do it for likes and engagement.
Right.
I don't monetize my podcast. I do it because I want to generally help people. And if you could leave the podcast with wanting us to know something about Melissa and what you want us to know about her and carry her legacy forward, what would that be? I know it's probably a really hard question.
Yeah.
What's one thing about Melissa you want everybody to know to remember her by? Not just a cold case, not a headline on ID Channel or Oxygen. If you could describe Melissa, what would it be?
Her smile, her beautiful, beautiful smile. My favorite picture is the one that you actually used when she's got the red, white, and blue jacket on, and she's got that big, beautiful smile. That's what I want people to remember about my sister. That big, beautiful smile and those big brown eyes, and how much she loved animals.
Did she always find the good in everybody? Like, always find the good in everybody and loved people and just laughed? Okay. You can tell it in her smile. That's a genuine smile. I really like that photo. And I know we were talking earlier, moving forward, and you want to help other people. And tell us a little bit about the project you want to work on moving forward.
It's called Project Melissa. It's domestic violence awareness. And I just want to be able to tell Melissa's story, hopes that it will help somebody get out of the same situation that they might find themselves in, especially if they're in high school. But it's named after my sister, Project Melissa.
And if people want to help contribute to that or do anything, do you need if people could volunteer, do you need a website? Do you need funds? Do you need anything from the community that could help you start that?
Yes, because to be able to get out and talk to people, I'll need gas. I don't want to use it all for that purpose. Eventually, I want to help with the Gabby Petito Foundation. I want to contribute some to them too, because I don't think I've told you this, but I know I have Sheryl and my mom. When Gabby came up missing, it was like I was looking at my sister. The way she was in that police car and how she was talking to them officers, it reminded me so much of my sister. And I remember thinking to myself, that girl is dead. And I feel so bad for Gabby's parents because I know how that feels. It is awful. So it's just not about me. It's about other girls that are like Gabby and about my sister. Like my sister, is to help them. And if they've never seen it, they don't know what domestic violence is.
But
They need to be taught.
Gabby's parents didn't even really know what it was, and they learned after Gabby died. Have you spoke to her parents before?
I have not. But when we went to CrimeCon Orlando a couple years ago, they had set up their booth. That's when they were first setting up the thing for Gabby. And I wanted to say something to them so bad that day, and I just couldn't because there were so many people. I just wanted to tell them how sorry I was and about my sister, and how when I saw that with Gabby, I knew she reminded me so much of my sister. And it just broke my heart when I found out that she was dead. I mean, I knew, but to hear it come out on the news and stuff, it was just like my sister all over again. So I know what they're going through.
I did volunteer with them for some time, and a lot of people had asked me, like, what is it about Gabby that made you start speaking about domestic violence? And
it's that innocence.
The innocence. I was in Gabby's shoes. I was a social media influencer. My ex was vegan. He wanted to live in a van, travel across the country, and I was strangled. So when I saw Gabby on TV, I'm like, that could have been me. So I wanted to help their foundation any way I could. So it's interesting to see how many lives she's helped. Not just victims, but victims' family members who try to pick up the pieces and move forward. And I think, and I told Nikki Joe Petito this, I think everything happens for a reason. And I think Gabby's purpose was to help save lives. I honestly, and I'm sure your sister, there's going to be an aha moment and you're going to go, yes. And not that she deserved to pass away, but this is the good that can happen. Now we can help save other lives. I think Sheryl's going to be on my podcast. I have surgery in a few weeks. We're going to try for April or August. But I'd like to have you and her on my podcast, not just her. So if you want to come back on, I would love to have both of you have a conversation. I think that'd be awesome.
Anything involving Sheryl, I'm all for.
Me too.
She's great.
She is. She met my mom, and they took a picture with Nancy Grace's mugshot background, and Sheryl looks at my mom. She goes, "Girl,
too.
I love her." Sheryl looks at my mom and goes, "Girl, we'd get in trouble." She goes, "We're gonna be partners in crime." And I love Nancy too. But yeah, thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for being a voice of domestic violence. And if there's any way I can support you with Project Melissa, please do not be afraid to ask.
I'll be sending you all the info. It hasn't launched yet. I'm actually launching it August 1st.
Okay.
I'm still working on some of the final details.
I'm a social media manager, so marketing is my thing. So that's where I would volunteer my time to help you to get the word out, make images, post things, make GoFundMes,
I've got the image already.
There you go.
I've got the image.
That's what I do. But I can share things and get messages out. That's what I do. That's what people know that I do. So if you need help with that, if I can help you get funds in any way, let me know. And Gabby Petito's family could probably help you figure out how to make a nonprofit to get that going, because that's what they did. Nikki has all the information on that. So I promise you I will send her your information. It might be a little bit because I know she just got home from they were in Vegas, and then they were in California, then they went to Florida, then they were
don't they have the golf thing?
Yeah, they just had that last weekend. They were in Chicago. They're all over all the time. I barely hear from Nikki anymore, but she gets my text.
Did you make it to the golf tournament?
No, I didn't this year. I'm having surgery next week, so I have to save the extra days. But I sponsored it. I did. I went last year though. I was there. It was a really good time. I want to help keep Melissa's name alive, and anything I can do, Tina, and obviously, and Cheryl just speaks highly of you and your family. She loves you, loves your mom, loves your dad, loves Melissa, and I feel like everybody meets each other for a reason. So I'm thankful that I met her. I'm thankful that I met you. And just because I'm in Pennsylvania doesn't mean we can't be friends. I think me and you could get along very well.
Maybe I'll see you in Orlando this year.
I will be there. I will be in Orlando 2027. And my friend Aspen that you met at the book signing, he's always trying to drag me to Atlanta to go to these events for Sheryl. So you may in the near future, I'm going to be moving to Ohio.
Go Aspen.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at apartments in Cincinnati, and I'm looking, and I finally fall in love with one, and I look up and it's in Aspen Village. I'm like, oh, come on. So he's been trying to get me to come to Atlanta. And if he does, I will make sure that we get to meet up. I didn't get to go twice now. Sheryl did invite me down to the book signing, and the other one she did, the Wine and Crime with Nancy Grace and Joseph Scott Morgan. I didn't get to go to that one. I just started a new job. And then she invited me up to the Hamptons. I couldn't do that one. I was like, I was supposed to be with her in Boston in October at Crime Story Fest. I had a table and a booth and everything. But because I'm having surgery, I had to save all my time. But we'll meet eventually. I think we will.
Yeah, we will. We will.
If there's anything your mom needs, please. I think she added me on Facebook the other day. I think. Sorry, what's her name again? Norma. Yeah, I have her on Facebook. Or maybe I added her. I just saw it in my notifications. But we will continue to, share Melissa's story, share her. She seemed like a very bright, fun ball of love. That's when I see her picture. That's what just a ball of love.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how else to explain it, but I do feel like earlier when I was saying about your dad, I wish he could have went after Chris. I felt like I had, hair on my arms, like they were sitting next to me. It was a really odd feeling, and I just felt weird for a second. So something came through me. But is there anything online, or did you ever have documentaries or anything made about Melissa that people can watch?
There will be one coming soon. There will be a documentary coming soon.
Okay. Well, guys, you heard it from Melissa's sister, Tina. Tina, thank you for being on the show. And I want to have you back as much as I can. I don't care if it's every week, every month. We'll keep talking about Melissa. We'll keep updates going. We'll keep her memory alive. We'll keep the project going. And, send me everything you have on that project, and I'll start using it, and I'll start talking about it in all my podcasts, kind of like a commercial break or whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll use that, and I'll just keep plugging you. So I'm here, whatever you need. I love doing marketing. So if it's 2:00 in the morning and you're like, I need this, I'll probably be awake doing it. So is there anything else you want to say to my audience, or
anybody that's suffering with the domestic violence situation, please get them out of it. No matter what you have to do, get them away from it. Don't live with any regrets. There's lots of things I probably could have done to save my sister, and I wish I had. That's basically it.
Well,
Don't let people go through it.
No, I'm right there with you, Tina. And just if you see something, say something to all my followers out there. And if you're in a domestic violence situation yourself, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-SAFE. And then you can also text the word START to 88788. But there's also resources on the GabbyPetitoFoundation.org. They list a ton of,
and there's a lot of them on Gabby's.
There are. So
Gabby Petito Foundation is awesome.
Yep. So next time we're on, you guys can stay tuned for part 2. I'll have Tina and Sheryl McCollum back, and they can tell us about their relationship together and their journey through this, and how we all became friends in this tragedy of so many people that, before I wrap up, I've been watching true crime since I was little. I used to watch Unsolved Mysteries when I went to sleep. I still do. So this has always been my interest, and I wanted to be a crime scene investigator, but I'm bad at math and science. It would have never worked. So I've met so many amazing people through the true crime community, and people are like, it's true crime. I'm like, I meet the nicest people, the sweetest souls, the most empathetic.
You have no idea.
I found a healing community where I feel safe. I feel safe where I can be me. I can have trauma. I can be a victim or a survivor. And it doesn't matter what people think. They're all like, we got you. Like, I never felt so welcome in my life. And I don't know how to explain that, but you went to CrimeCon. You know what it feels like. It's just this whole...
Man, it was overwhelming. I mean, even everybody was coming up saying, we are so sorry for what happened to your sister.
Oh,
And, they could put they could put themselves in my dad's shoes. They would tell us that how sorry they were for my dad and how proud they were that he was trying to help us get justice, even though he was still locked up in prison. And they were
I'd have been
just
rooting for your
so
dad.
supportive to my mom and my dad. You wouldn't
Oh,
believe it.
I
It was
love it. I
awesome.
would have been. Yeah. I wish I could
It
have
was
met your
awesome.
dad. He probably would have
I
been a
think
fun guy
I think I walked by you, but I had no idea who you were
when was that?
in Orlando a couple of years
No,
ago.
I think it was one. Nope. My first one was Denver last year, and then
Was it
this
really?
year, yes, Denver was my first one. I loved it. I hope they go back to Denver. But I will be in Orlando in 2027. I already have my ticket, so you'll
Orlando is
if you go
awesome.
there,
I loved Orlando. It was awesome.
it's
That
gonna
was
be
the
a big
first one
resort.
we did was Orlando.
Yeah,
Yep.
I know that. I heard a lot of people loved that one. So we'll if we don't meet before then, we'll meet there if you're going. But
I'm going to do
I'm
my best to go.
well, we'll do our best to get you there. So, but I'm so glad we got to meet finally, and I'm sorry that we pushed this off, but I'm glad that Sheryl put us in touch, and I look forward to getting to know you more.
Me too.
All right,
Thanks,
Tina,
Tip.
send me everything you need, and I will help out. Okay?
Got it. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Wow, what an amazing woman Tina is. I feel like I could hang out with her and shoot the shit and have a good time. We were laughing on some parts, and I had to edit them out, but she's a good soul. She's got good energy. Thank you, Sheryl McCollum, for uniting Tina and I. So hopefully I'll get to meet Tina before CrimeCon Orlando, but if not, we'll definitely meet up then. Again, guys, if you want to learn more about Melissa Wolfenberger, you can check out Sheryl McCollum's book, Swans Don't Swim in a Sewer. It's about solving the cold case of the Flint River Killer's daughter. A serial killer turns crime victim when his own daughter is the one viciously murdered. He asks law enforcement for help, but the case goes cold. Then he turns to Sheryl McCollum and the Cold Case Investigative Research Institute. There's never been a case like this in history. Sheryl and her team of experts get involved. They hatch a plan. What happens when Sheryl uses a serial killer as bait to catch a killer? Read the book. A tale full of twists and turns about a crime scene investigator leaving no stone unturned in the hunt for Melissa's killer. One such stone led to the mindset of a serial killer, which resulted in an unlikely yet masterful partnership between the cops and Melissa's father to catch her killer in one of Atlanta's notorious cold case murder mysteries. That's from Scott Duffy. He's a retired FBI supervisory special agent. And Linda Kenny Baden from ASQ, a high-profile criminal attorney, says, the devil went down to Georgia and he met his match in Sheryl McCollum. This harrowing yet captivating tale underscores the profound complexity of human psychology and the dark connections that sometimes emerge in pursuit of the truth. Really good book. There's a note inside the book from Sheryl McCollum that says, hookers, drug dealers, pimps, thieves, killers. These are the kind of people I often work with. They make up the sounds, the pulse, and the life of the streets. Old cops and veteran detectives often talk about how knowing the streets, but for me, it's the underbelly of the streets that's most important. The gutter that flows to the sewer that flows like a river of intel and knowledge is all but hidden to the good people walking above ground. When you're searching for evil, you gotta go where the devils play. I got to deal with people, all kinds of people. But the reality is the sewer sometimes has experts that I need. I got to go into the sewer and let the current take me wherever I need to go. And that's exactly what I did. That was a note from author Sheryl McCollum in Swans Don't Swim in a Sewer. There are pictures of Melissa in here. And again, Melissa was a beautiful soul, big brown eyes, brown hair, a mother, a sister, a wife, a child, a friend. And she's not just a cold case. She's not a headline. She is a person. And I will work closely with Sheryl McCollum and Tina Patton to make sure Project Melissa gets off the ground, and we do what we can to help her get some advocacy for domestic violence and continue Melissa's legacy on helping other victims. So with that being said, thank you for tuning into True Crime with Tiff Klein. Tonight we gave criminals the disrespect they deserve, but tonight Christopher Wolfenberger is the criminal that deserves the disrespect. So thank you for tuning in. You can follow me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. You can stream me on YouTube, iHeart, Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. And if you want, you can also tune into my newest podcast about hope, healing, and humanity. It's called Turning the Corner with a K. And that's also on all the streaming platforms, Spotify, iHeart, YouTube, Apple, Amazon, and more. And Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat. So if you want to give us a follow, and make sure you check out Sheryl McCollum's Facebook page and her podcast, Official Zone 7, where you can find all of her endeavors. So that's awesome. Zone 7, The Last Responders, official podcast fan group on Facebook. It is private, but you can look up Sheryl, you can look up Zone 7, and then look up the podcasts on streaming platforms and go down the rabbit hole or sewers, I guess, with Sheryl McCollum. It was a pleasure, Tina. Thank you so much for being on my show. I will make sure you're back with Sheryl and we can discuss how you two work together to solve your sister's murder and the journey that it took to get there and the friendship you guys made. Keep being strong. I absolutely adore you. I loved talking to you so much. I could have talked to you all night. Like, I was ready to light a cigarette and have a beer. Like, that's the kind of energy that I was like, I could kick it with her. And I don't even smoke anymore. Like, I vape. But that's the energy. Like, I could definitely like see myself hanging out with you on a porch, like people watching and just cracking open a beer, having a cigarette and just chilling. Like, I love your energy and I cannot wait to meet you in person and enjoy some pot liquors. I'm going to have to eat some if I come to Atlanta. I told Sheryl I'm going to have to come to Atlanta at some point. So I guess I'll have some pot liquors and we'll have a beer. Until next time, guys, this is True Crime with Tiff Klein, giving criminals the disrespect they deserve.